In this WrestleTalk news, some CM Punk AEW Backstage heat explained, an update on the rumor that the Young Bucks want to go to WWE, some WWE creative plan updates, and more. Subscribe and enable notifications to always on for daily wrestling news videos.
Support WrestleTalk!
Since All Out, the wrestling news cycle has been dominated by one man, CM Punk. And that would be because after All Out, CM Punk did a media scrum promo, a reportedly planned out ahead of time promo for that matter, calling out Colt Cabana, Hangman Adam Page, MJF, Kenny Omega, and the Young Bucks. What resulted was a backstage fight between Punk, his trainer Ace Steel, and the Elite, where Kenny Omega reportedly saved a dog and Ace Steel took a bite out of him for his troubles. And all 5 men have since been suspended by the company, with CM Punk being stripped of the AEW World Championship and the Elite being stripped of their trios titles. While the suspension has not been officially announced by All Elite Wrestling, as there are reportedly legal issues surrounding the event which prevents anyone from talking about it, although according to Dave Meltzer in the Wrestling Observer newsletter, some want to talk and tell their side of the story, Punk, Omega, and the Bucks have been removed from the title intros to both Dynamite and Rampage, and none of their names were mentioned on either broadcast. So while not official, we can put 1 and 1 together and not get 3. I paraphrased a lyric from Cult of Personality, do you see what I did there? So with all of those names floating around and the title of this video being about CM Punk's backstage heat with someone in AEW, we'd better spin the wheel and narrow down who it is we're exactly talking about. Bobby Fish. I did not see that one coming, although thinking about it, we probably should have. Lost in the all-out fallout was a news story last week of former AEW star Bobby Fish, whose contract expired last month, leading to the two parties parting ways, calling out CM Punk on his Undisputed podcast, challenging the former AEW world champ to an MMA fight, insert CM Punk UFC joke here. Fish was then invited onto NBC Sports Boston to talk about this further, which has since become my favorite wrestling interview of 2022, because he said, "Phil was a I'm just gonna let that hang in the air for a bit." The full quote was, "I'm working for AEW, they're paying my check. You asked me to put my shoulders down for Phil Brooks. I go out and do it." Interestingly enough, there was a little whatever in the match we had, and after the match, Phil was a
Well, there's no need for that!
Frankly, as a martial artist, I went out and laid my shoulders down for you. You should be grateful that I did, because on national TV, if I decided that I wanted to Haku your ass, I could have, because you're that little of a threat in my world. Also my favorite wrestling interview of 2022 for bringing up Haku. Top work, Bob. But what does this all stem from?
Visit WrestleShop.com every day for the most stupendous in wrestling merchandise. WrestleShop.com. Wrestling merch for grown-ups.
Back in October last year, CM Punk and Bobby Fish had a match on AEW Dynamite. I know, I'd forgotten about it too, which Punk obviously won with the GTS. Some people did notice, however, that when Punk got the pin on Fish, Bobby essentially kicked out of the GTS on the 3 count. If you go back and watch the footage, Fish gets his shoulders off the mat and kicks out of the move the second the referee's hand counts the final 3 to end the match. Speaking with Wrestling Headlines, Fish explains that he kicked out at the 3 count because Punk had given him an Iggy, i.e. a wrestler's way of saying good match. But Punk did it during the count, not after the count, which is apparently the done thing. And Fish took that to mean that Punk wanted to change something in the finish. He told Wrestling Headlines, "In that moment, I know for myself I had to make a split-second decision. I had to either kick out or not kick out or lose the moment forever. So I kicked out, and it was whatever it was." But this is reportedly the moment that caused genuine heat between the two. Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful had several people reach out to him, some of which he described as backstage detractors of Punk, to tell him that CM Punk wasn't happy about Fish kicking out of the GTS at 3, and that it was the catalyst of their poor relationship. He adds several people who remembered being backstage at the match were confused as to why Fish would do that, knowing that it likely wouldn't go over well. Some have pointed out that perhaps Fish kicked out of the move because Punk took so long to get into the pin after hitting the GTS. But Fightful Select spoke with one veteran who said Punk was actively selling for Bobby Fish in doing so. I also want to point out there that I think this is the first bit of news since CM Punk came back from injury where he wasn't portrayed as the bad guy. So I guess that's something. Or there are those who believe that he is the innocent party in the all-out fight, or brawl-out if you will. As the story from the Punk Steel side of things is that the Young Bucks were the aggressors in instigating the fight, with one report saying that Matt and Nick Jackson kicked the door down in order to get into CM Punk's locker room. Although some reports have softened on the kicking down the door part of the story. But that won't stop me from stealing a joke from Ultra Chatter Pansexual Chocolate from our AEW Dynamite review on the WrestleTalk podcast channel. Do you think the Young Bucks slapped the leg when they kicked the door down? When the fight initially broke out, Sean Ross Sapp tweeted some very important names were pissed off and threatening to walk out over this. It speculated those important names were in fact the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega. Now I know what you're thinking. There's no way the Young Bucks or Kenny Omega would leave AEW, but it's worth reminding ourselves that we all said that about Cody Rhodes back in February. And in an interesting twist to this tale, Ryan Frederick of the Wrestling Observer family noted on the F4W online message boards, I love that F4W online is so old school they still have an active message board, thumbs up to you, that the Young Bucks did reach out to talent within WWE to send feelers that they would be interested in talking about coming in when their deals are up. He continued, I can't confirm they actually talked to WWE people themselves, but they talked to other WWE talent about coming in. Frederick specifies that if the Bucks did reach out to WWE, they would have to do so through talent rather than the office, as doing that might be considered contract tampering. And there are current legal letters being sent out between WWE and AEW over that exact issue, which was reported last month. Frederick also adds that this is something the Young Bucks would have done when their contracts were up anyway, as that's the best leveraging tool to get yourself the best deal possible, i.e. put WWE and AEW into a bidding war over your services, something Randy Orton did to great effect in 2019. This report was also misattributed by some outlets to Dave Meltzer, likely because Ryan Frederick is a podcaster of the Wrestling Observer family of podcasts. Meltzer clarified on Wrestling Observer Radio that this did not come from him, and his co-host Brian Alvarez shot down the story somewhat by saying, I wouldn't read too much into the story of the Young Bucks either asking for their release or sending feelers out to WWE. Meltzer himself added that the Young Bucks are under contract with AEW until the end of 2023, but also said, we have to wait until a lot of things play out. I don't know how this thing's gonna play out. Well, I know one way it could play out. The Young Bucks to WWE confirmed. Thank you for your support on Patreon, Chris the Cypriot Sensation Patru, and he's no jackass, Dano. Speaking of Jackass, and it's been revealed by Prestige Wrestling that Jackass star Danger Aaron McGee is set to make his in-ring debut during Halloween weekend in Portland, Oregon. He'll be on the same card as Alex Shelley, Deonna Purrazzo, Eddie Edwards, Davey Richards, and more. There's no real story here, I just wanted to add it in because I watched Jackass Forever again over the weekend and enjoyed it immensely. An actual wrestling story, however, is the current plans, or lack thereof, for Raw star Veer Mahaan. Veer Mahaan began coming to Raw back in November 2021 after he was split from his team with Jinder Mahal and Shanky, but it took him all the way until April 4th, 2022 to finally climax on Raw all over Rey and Dominic Mysterio. He then got the typical WWE monster push of squashing local talent to less and less reaction. He's only had one match under the Triple H era of WWE, beating another local talent in under 2 minutes. And there was some speculation from fans that, like a Moss, Veer Mahaan might be a victim of the Trips regime, i.e. he was pushed under Vince McMahon, but is not factored into Triple H's plans. And according to Fightful Select, fan speculation might actually be correct here. Sean Ross Sapp writes, we've heard that there aren't significant imminent creative plans for Veer as of right now. However, he does add, as with everything, that can change. And speaking of potential changes, Ringside News are reporting that despite appearing on SmackDown not once, not thrice, but twice, Toxic Attraction of Gigi Dolan and JC Jane are not getting called up to the main roster. The pair were called in as a replacement for Zoe Stark and Nikita Lyons when Lyons had visa or vaccination issues depending on who you believe. And the pair then made another appearance on SmackDown this past Friday in a match with Aaliyah and Raquel Rodriguez. Ringside News add that Toxic Attraction are still listed as NXT talent. And lastly, we here at WrestleTalk would like to extend our condolences to the Fightful family after the passing of Elias Theodorou, who died died at the age of 34 due to stage 4 liver cancer. Theodorou was a former UFC fighter with an 8-3 record and is said to be an integral part of Fightful's early days. Jean Rossap tweeted, "My heart is broken. A member of the Fightful family, the wonderful Elias Theodorou, has passed away. He was always so wonderful, real, positive and uplifting. Such a helpful, knowledgeable, great guy. We're so fortunate to get to know him. He's gonna be missed so much." Our thoughts today are with the family, friends and co-workers of Elias Theodorou.
Okay, here we go. It's when the scene's comment is going to say, it's quite thrilling.
I was a slave until I died.
Whoa!
You can be a savior.
Oh! Look!